What's good, everyone? This is Artist of Truth, and welcome to my podcast. Or should I say vlog? So, this comes off of the heels. Um, Sorry, hold on for a moment. I need to do this now. So, um, this particular vlog comes off of the heels of some of these celebrities, some of these black celebrities who have taken it upon themselves to go out and get vaccinated. All right. Now, it's your prerogative, but it's my job. Uh, it's my job to remind to remind people, really, uh, preferably melanated people as well, but just to remind people as a whole about the U.S. involvement. Well, I wouldn't say involvement, but they were leading the way in various experiments on melanated people. So I'm going to go over a few. So if you have the time, I'm willing to, I'm willing to give you all of the information that you possibly need to help you make a more logical and sound decision, to not go out and take this nonsense that the government is pushing out upon people. Now, mind you, I get it. I understand a lot of people are scared because they don't know. But before I start, let me elaborate on something very, very important. And I've asked the same question to several people, and their answers were just as I thought. So I'm going to ask you, YouTube world, you walk into a lounge, a bar, or a restaurant, and someone was to bring you a drink, okay? Would you take the drink? Would you drink it? Or would you just sit it there, not knowing what is in that drink? Okay. A lot of people would tell me, of course, I'm not going to take a drink from a total and complete stranger that I don't know, especially if the drink is open. Anyone can drop something in your drink. You know this. You've heard of the stories. Men and women had stuff dropped in their drinks and they were messed up, right? All right, cool. Now, you have that aspect understood. All right. Now I get it. You probably have a few idiots that will probably be like, well, shit, I'm gonna go ahead and drink that drink. Yeah. And suddenly you don't hear or see those individuals no more because they're dead as a doorknob with a stupid ass. But I decided to do this particular podcast, this vlog, off of the heels of Spike Lee. Spike Lee, once again, has just some way, somehow showed that regardless of your career path and your level of knowledge, that you can still be suckered and tricked into just taking something without performing your due diligence in research. All right. I don't know what type of research Spike Lee has performed, but he's not giving any references. And I guarantee you a lot of his references is probably shot to shit. Most of his references are probably government funded. Keep that in mind. You will hear that phrase again, government funded. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this particular topic. So some of the things that I want to read off to you concerning the actions behind the U.S. government. Check it out. So, of course, at the top of the list, a lot of people should know, and for those who don't know, the Tuskegee experiment. So, of course, there's a good reason many Americans, melanated Americans, are wary of the good intentions of the government and the medical establishment. Even today, many believe that the conspiracy theory that AIDS, which was ravaged the melanated American community, both gay and straight, was created by the government to wipe out melanated Americans. What happened in Tuskegee, Alabama in 1932 is one explanation for these fears. Now, mind you, in 1932, the Tuskegee experiment was government funded. That means their doctors were being paid by the government. Okay. So you know that bit. All right. In 1932, the president was Herbert Hoover. Keep that in mind. So at the time, these treatments for syphilis, a sexually transmitted disease that causes pain, insanity, ultimately death, were mostly toxic and ineffective. Things like mercury, which cause kidney failure, mouth ulcers, tooth loss, insanity, and death. Government funded doctors decided it would be interesting to see if no treatment at all was better than the treatments they were using. So began the Tuskegee experiment. So over the course of the next 40 years, Tuskegee study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male denied treatment to 399 syphilitic patients, most of them poor, melanated, illiterate sharecroppers. Even after penicillin emerged as an effective treatment in 1947, these patients who were not told they had syphilis, but they were informed they suffered from bad blood. How you like that shit? Compliments of your government. Were denied treatment or given fake placebo treatments. And by the end of the study in 1972, only 74 of the subjects were still alive. 28 patients died directly from syphilis. 100 died from complications related to syphilis. 40 of the patients' wives were infected with syphilis, and 19 children were born with congenital syphilis. You see why? You see why your government cannot be trusted. All right. Let's carry on to the next one. The Aversion Project. Y'all gonna love this one. So the Aversion Project, basically, they didn't like gay people in apartheid era, South Africa, especially in the armed forces. How they got rid of them is shocking. Using army psychiatrists and military chaplains who were presumably uh, private to private confidential confessions, the ARPAID, I'm sorry, ARPED. That's exactly what is. I am pronouncing it wrong. Forgive me. It's APARTHEID, ARPAID. So it's the apartheid regime flushed out homosexuals in the armed forces, but did not evict them from the military. The homosexuals undesirables were sent to a military hospital in Pretoria to a place called Ward 22, which in itself sounds terrifying, right? Okay. So between 71 and 89, many victims were submitted to chemical castrations and electric shock treatments meant to cure them of their homosexual conditions. As many as 900 homosexuals, mostly 16 to 24 years old, who had been drafted, had not voluntarily joined the military, but were subjected to forced sexual reassignment surgeries. Men were surgically turned into women against their will, then cast out into the world. The gender reassignment, often incomplete and without any means to pay for expensive hormones to maintain their new sexual identities. The head of this project, Dr. Aubrey Levin, went on to become a clinical professor at the University of Calgary. That is until 2010, when his license was suspended for making sexual advances towards a male student. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison for other sexual assaults against males. So, mind you, that was between 71 and 89. Lyndon B. Johnson was the president. Hold that thought with the presidents now. The next one, Guatemalan STD study. Syphilis seemed to bring out the inherent racism in government-funded doctors. In the 1940s, Tuskegee's black people, melanated people weren't the only victims of morally reprehensible studies of this disease. Turns out that Guatemalans were also deemed suitable, unknowing guinea pigs by the U.S. government. Penicillin having emerged as a cure for syphilis in 47, the government decided to see how effective it was. The way to do this, the government decided, was to turn syphilitic prostitutes loose on Guantanamo prison inmates. Y'all's government. Let me read that again. The way to do this, the government decided, was to turn prostitutes who had syphilis loose on Guantanamo prison inmates. How dirty is that shit? Mental patients and soldiers, none of whom consented to be subjects of an experiment. If actual sex didn't infect the subjects, then superindus inoculation did the trick. One infected, the victim was given penicillin to see if it worked, or not given penicillin just to see what would happen. Apparently, about a third of the approximately 1,500 victims fell into the latter groups. More than 80 participants in the experiment died. So this study was led by John Charles Coulter, who has subsequently participated in later stages of the Tuskegee experiment. In 2010, the Secretary of State Hillary Clinton formally apologized to Guatemala for this dark chapter in American history. How many times you gonna sit up here and allow these bastards sit up here and apologize to you, huh? But nobody's heads is rolling. No one's feet is really and truly being held to the fire. All right, let us continue. It doesn't stop there. Agent Orange experiments. Prisoners, like people of color, have been the unwilling objects of evil experiments from 65 to 1966. Dr. Albert Kigman, funded by Dow Chemical, Johnson and Johnson, and the U.S. Army, conducted what was deemed dermatological research. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, hey, it's on me. I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm just reading the information as I have been getting it for myself. So it was necessary for me to come and share it with you. So if I spelled it wrong, sounded it out wrong, don't hold it against me. But this research was done on approximately 75 prisoners. What was actually being studied was the effects of Agent Orange on humans. Mind you, we had this similar case surface in Augusta. In Augusta, parts of the Army base, Fort Gordon, was doing the same shit. All right. Prisoners were injected with dioxin, a toxic byproduct of Agent Orange, 468 times the amount the study originally called for. The results were prisoners with volcanic eruptions of chlorazine, severe acne combined with blackheads, cysts, pulse, and other really bad stuff on the face, armpits, and groin. Long after the experiments ended, prisoners continued to suffer from the effects of the exposure. So, of course, this loopy ass Dr. Kigman, apparently very enthusiastic about the study, was quoted as saying, "All I saw before me were acres of skin. It was like a farmer seeing a fertile field for the first time." He went on to become the doctor behind Retin A major treatment for acne. So, let's see, what is around that time? That was between Agent Orange between 65 and 66. Oh, that was Lyndon B. Johnson. Again, be mindful. So the next one, eradication of Black cancer patients. During the Cold War, the US and the Soviet Union spent much of their time trying to figure out if they could survive a nuclear catastrophe. How much radiation could a human body take? This would be important information for the Pentagon to know in order to protect its soldiers in the event they were crazy enough to start an atomic holocaust. Enter the seeming go-to-government choice for secret experimentation, unknowing African Americans, melanated people. From 1960 until 1971, Dr. Eugene Sanger, a radiologist at the University of Cincinnati, had led experiments exposing 88 cancer patients, poor and mostly Black, to whole body radiation. Now, this is another reason why I always tell people when they start talking about chemotherapy and everything, I tell them, don't do it. You need to learn how to detox your body and give your body the opportunity to repair itself. You can't continue putting a whole lot of processed, heart killing, artery clogging, cancer forming foods in your body and then expect the doctor to save you. And then you go right back to it. Some doctors will actually give you the information that you could help yourself without going through the whole chemotherapy. I know this. I've been in the presence of former clients who just left chemo. One of my closest friends back at home, he was going through chemotherapy and everything. And what I noticed was a very, very similar pattern. And that was when they would go, they would come out, they would be so tired. They would just be, they wouldn't have enough energy to really do too much of anything. Why? Because it was killing off, if I wasn't mistaken, it was killing off the white blood cells. So when I noticed that, I was like, that cannot be healthy for the human body. So you just heard it yourself. You just got it yourself. A radiologist at the University of Cincinnati led an experiment exposing 88 cancer patients, poor and mostly melanated, to a whole body radiation. Even though this sort of treatment had already been pretty well discredited for the types of cancers these patients had, they were not asked to sign consent forms, nor were they told that the Pentagon funded the study. See what I mean? You see what I mean? Pay attention, people. Pay attention. They were not asked to sign consent forms, nor were they told the Pentagon funded the study. They were simply told they would be getting a treatment that might help them. Kind of like what we're dealing with now, right? Let me continue. Patients were exposed in the period of 1 hour to the equivalent of about 20,000 x-rays worth of radiation. Wow. Nausea, vomiting, severe stomach pains, loss of appetite, and mental confusion were the result. As a report in 1972 indicated that as many as a quarter of the patients died of radiation poisoning. So this doctor recently received a gold medal for career achievements from the Radiological Society of North America. Again, you still want to go out and get that vaccination, right? Let me continue. Boy. Y'all just. Oh. Slave experiments. It should also be no surprise that experiments were often conducted on human cattle during the America's shameful slavery history. The man considered the father of modern gynecology, Marion Sims, conducted numerous experiments on female slaves between 1845 and 1849. The women afflicted with vesicovaginal flutusis, a tear between the vagina and the bladder, suffered greatly from the condition and were incontinent, resulting in a ostracism. Because Sims felt the surgery was not painful enough to justify the trouble, as he said, In an 1857 lecture, the operations were done without anesthesia. Being slaves, the women had no say as to whether they wanted the procedures or not, and some subjected to as many as 30 operations. These are many advocates for, there are many advocates for Dr. Sims pointing out that the woman would have been anxious for any possibility of curing their condition, and that anesthetics were new and unproven at the time. Nevertheless, it's telling black slaves and not white women, who presumably would have been just as anxious, were the subjects of the experiment. So here we go. Let's see. Oh, we still got two more, right? Then I'm gonna go ahead and let you all know exactly how I feel about this whole thing. The monster study. Add children, add children to the list of vulnerable people subjected to evil experiments. So in 1939, Wendell Johnson, University of Iowa, speech was it pathologist, and his grad student, Mary Tudor, conducted stuttering experiments on 22 non-stuttering orphan children. The children were split into two groups. One group was given positive speech therapy, praising them for their fluent speech. The unfortunate other group was given negative therapy, harshly criticizing them for any flaw in their speech abilities, labeling them stutterers. And I used to have somewhat of an issue stuttering myself, but I eventually got out of it. And I tell anybody, I was like, you say something about somebody stuttering, you need to be chopped twice in your throat and your head need to roll. Oh, I need to get me another bottle of wine now. But the results of this cruel experiment was that children in the negative group, not while not transforming into full-fledged stutterers, suffered negative psychological effects and suffered from speech problems for the rest of their lives. Formerly normal children came out of the experiment dubbed the monster study. Anxious, withdrawn, and silent, several as adults even sued the University of Iowa, which settled the case in 2007. And the last but not least, Project 4. This was very, very interesting. Project 4.1 was a medical study conducted on the natives of Marshall Island, who in 1952 were exposed to radiation fallout from the Castle Bravo nuclear test at Bikini Atoll, which inadvertently blew up unwind to the nearby islands instead of forming the residents of the islands of their exposure and treating the victims while they studied them. The U.S. elected instead to just sit and watch quietly. What? They had no involvement in that, but they knew about it, right? But you see exactly you see how the government operates. The government wants to play this type of, oh, I'm a hero, I'm gonna go and save the people. But it's like, how can you consider yourself anywhere remotely a hero and you got a very, very extensive list of harming your own people, even to this day? Let me hold that and finish reading a little less of this, and then we can go get right on into it. At first, the effects were inconclusive. For the first 10 years, miscarriages, stillbirths increased, but then returned to normal. Some children had developmental problems or stung growth, but no conclusive pattern was detectable. After that first decade, though a pattern did emerge, it was ugly. Children with thyroid cancers significantly above what would be considered normal. By 1974, most a third of the exposed islanders developed tumors. A Department of Energy reported stated that the dual purpose of what is now a DOE medical program has led to a view by the Marshallese that were being used as guinea pigs in radiation experiments. All right, so with the last one, I won't even lie. It has an involvement. It has a very, very close involvement involving the government, okay? But the thing that was very, very surprising is that we all know the government's track record, okay? We know the government's track record. We know how the military operates. We have loved ones in the military. We've had loved ones that used to be in the military and they are out now and they're still not being treated accordingly, regardless of what your skin tone is. Especially for melanated people, we're still getting screwed over. So I say that to say this. If you think for 1 minute, and I really and truly wish that I could get this video, this vlog. I wish I could get this over to Spike Lee, just so he could hear it. It's like, because there's a lot of our people that don't know this information, because this type of information would not be shared in public and private schools, because it will start to alter the thinking, the thought process of a lot of our young men and women. You think there's pushback now. Imagine if everyone was educated in the manner with the information. They were just educated with the raw, uncut truth. It wasn't, what's that? It wasn't dressed up. It wasn't downplayed to make it seem like it wasn't so bad. No, let everyone know this information. And I wish Spike Lee would have been able to get a hold of this information before his little silly goofy ass went out there and took them daggone shots. Hank Aaron went through that. 60 some days later, what happened to Hank Aaron? He's gone. Now, I get it. I hear a lot of people saying, well, my loved one died from COVID and this, that, and the fifth. I was like, but let me ask you this. And I have to ask people, those who have told me they've lost a loved one, I've asked them, hey, okay, you lost a loved one. Were you able to perform an autopsy to confirm that information? And guess what their response was? No, they won't allow it. They won't allow an independent autopsy to be performed. Why? Oh, because they don't want to spread it even more. Really? Really? You telling me they can't isolate the body? They can't isolate the body and place the body somewhere where and bring someone in a, hell, put them in a hazmat suit, but give them the opportunity to let the family know what the truth is. But see, they're not doing that. They're not. And as I stated before, reading through, government funded doctors, even during those times. So if the government was funding doctors to perform these domestic terroristic experiments on melanated people, what makes you think they're not doing the same thing right now? Like, for real. Because I find it quite amusing. You have doctors on one side of the fence saying, yes, take this. It has to be taken. This is the only way you can be protected. And then on another side of the fence, you got doctors that are just like, no, no, it hasn't even been tested. And it's funny because the doctors who are saying no, those are the ones that are getting discredited. But hey, they're doctors, right? They obtained their degrees and no different than the other doctors. But see, I guarantee you, I guarantee you, if someone could get into, if someone could find out whether or not these doctors are being government funded, you'll have a whole lot of Americans. You will find a whole lot of doctors that will probably just close down their practice. They will get ghosts. They will skip town because there will be a lot of Americans that will look back at them and then they going after them. They going after them, whether they're going to their office or whether they are going to their home. They going after them. But most families who have lost a loved one, and my heart goes out to you because this type of thing should not happen. It shouldn't happen to the extent where Americans are so goddamn gullible and passive and weak and just fearful that they're not willing to stop and think and just say, you know what? These fools have had a history of lying to us. These folks, this same government has had a history of screwing over melanated people. My thing is, if you're melanated and you have gone out and got that shot, you need to be slapped. You need to be slapped. You need your ass beaten. You need a good old fashioned butt whooping. Like now. And to those of you who have not gone out and just folded, remember this. No one knows your body better than you do. Okay? No one knows what you feel. Only you. You can tell someone, you can describe your pain, but they don't know what you feel. They don't know what they're not feeling what you're feeling. And when I see people going out here and they're wearing masks, I get upset. But then I understand, hey, when you don't know, you don't know. So I don't come down too hard on people for their lack of knowledge, for their lack of just operating with their own God-given common sense. I don't come down on them. I still love them. But the information that's being put out, if you're being given this information and you still don't take the necessary precautions to protect yourself, especially our elders. They played, I mean, look, Bill Gates came into the picture talking about depopulation. My thing is, who the fuck is Bill Gates to play God? If that's the case, then I don't know how old Bill Gates is, but shit, he should be on his way out then. It was like, hey, you and your wife, y'all need to be getting ready to go then. Since you want to depopulate, you need to go right along with everybody else since you want to wipe a lot of the elders out. And that's to me, that is what I consider domestic terrorism. What's going on right now is I consider domestic terrorism because you're instilling fear amongst the American people. Then you're turning around, the media propaganda, CNN, Fox News, all of these media outlets, they play a part in perpetuating that level of fear. I wouldn't, I'm like, shoot, when you have the CIA who is hiring and training journalists to put certain information out, that should tell you something right there. We are not safe. We are not safe. And then you have human beings who are doctors that a lot of our elders and even us ourselves, we put our trust in, and they lie. They lie for financial gain. You have some doctors, they're just like flat out, no, no. They flat out tell us no, and then they get discredited. I was like, how are you going to how are you going to discredit a doctor who went through the same channels to obtain his and her degree to be categorized and labeled a doctor? But those doctors who are saying yes, yes, we need to give this out, you trust them? You trust them? One thing that is not being reported is the number of Americans that are just dying from this vaccine. They're not saying that. They're not reporting that. But I have given you valuable information right there. So if you are confused about whether or not you should I take it? How bad is it going to be? It can't be that bad, Phil. Getting the vaccine. We got to do something. Let me explain to you what you should be doing. First and foremost, you need to start changing your diet. If you don't change your diet, don't cry, don't bitch, don't complain, don't. If you're not willing to take control of your own health, your own temple, because this is your temple. This is flesh and bones. This is your body. You only got one. You only got one. This life is not the PlayStation. It's not an Xbox. It's not a Switch. It's not a Wii where you can hit the reset button and then start your life all over again. It's not, people. You only have one life. It is your job. It's not anyone else's job. You only have one job, and that is to preserve your temple. Preserve your temple. Like, why are we being so goddamn godforsaken lazy about taking care of ourselves? Why? Oh, it's easy to be lazy. It's easy to be lazy. It's easy to be complacent. And then we start suffering. And then it's like we don't know what to do. Let me tell you something. Change your diet. I challenge you all. Anyone who comes across this video and listens to it, I challenge you. For 30 days, no chicken, no beef, no pork, no lamb, just all vegetable base. Just all vegetable base. No dairy. Go to a market, get your own, get vegetables. Get vegetables. Give your body exactly what your body deserves. And I guarantee you, your body will thank you. Your body will reward you by how you feel on the inside. And when you're feeling great and you're healthy on the inside, it starts to come through your pores. For those who are probably dealing with acne, I guarantee you, you start changing your intake, your acne will clear up. Okay? You can't sit here and drink carbonated sodas and be wondering, why my face pussing up? Because you're not taking better care of your health. If you could take a can of Coke, crack that joker open, and pour it on a battery cable that has corroded, and that doggone Coke eats that corrosion, what do you think it's doing to your stomach? Really? Again, This is just common sense thinking. These are things that I've experienced throughout my life. I see these things and I can't help but to ask. I'm like, I don't want the lining of my stomach getting, you know, just the lining of my stomach. I don't want to lose that. It's supposed to be there. That's how it was created. I want to keep it there. If you want to know how you can better take care of yourself, let me tell you something. Hold on, let me get my boy. Oh my gosh. Hey, hey, now, come here. I was texting you. Come here.
I didn't know what you meant. I didn't know what you meant, but I was like, what's he talking about? Is he talking about me being polite? Come here.
No, come on. All right. Sorry about that. But yeah, man. Like I was saying, this I don't know. Maybe my message is maybe my message is coming off wrong. Maybe my message is coming off too hard or whatnot. But I don't know about you all. But for me, I've always been a loving person. Okay. I may not like a person's actions or behaviors, but it doesn't mean that I would wish death upon people. You know, you can learn a lot from different people. Everyone has great energy. You know, everyone has great energy, everyone doesn't. But for me, this this whole thing is it's sad, but I guess it's like, what else can you say? You know, if I didn't, my thing is, if I didn't love people as a whole, if I didn't love people, I wouldn't be talking about it. You know, I would not be trying to put out this, I wouldn't be trying to put out this information for, for people who are fearful. I wouldn't be trying to put any of this information out. But by me being a loving person and, just a lover of human life, you know, I want people to understand that you can save yourselves. You can save yourselves. You can save your, you can, you can change this. If you are obese, you can lose weight. It's all about how bad you want to lose it. It's all about how bad you want it. You want to shed those pounds? Start being mindful of what you're eating. You got to get out and exercise. You can't just talk about it and you don't do it. Nothing changes for you. Nothing changes. If you want to become healthier, you want to be around, because I don't know about anyone else, but me personally, I want to be around until I'm in my 90s, like Sister Cicely Tyson, a very, very honorable goddess. She lived to get her age, to get to that age, and she was beautiful. She didn't do that at 90. I'm looking like, no, she ain't no 90. I was like, no, she ain't no 90. I was giving her like 60. I was giving her like, 60, 70, somewhere, but 90? I was like, no, not at all. But that shows you she has experienced life. I guarantee you, she had an understanding of what it took. She probably was eating healthy, healthier than a lot of us are. I could be wrong. I don't know. That's just my humble opinion of Cicely Tyson. But I want to be here. I want to see. I want to see my kids and my grandkids. I want to see my niece and my nephews grow up and have their families and be able to see their children and be able to sit amongst them when I get older and share my insight and wisdom for them so they can protect themselves. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. There's nothing wrong with wanting to enjoy life. Life should never end when you get in your 70s, or it's like, oh, I'm done. I'm just gonna kill over and die. No, no. Your health is very important. You want to be here, eat healthy. They tell you to wear a mask and everything. Either either you stand, either you stand for what you know and you feel is right, or they'll tell you to wear a mask. You hear them talking about, oh, you need to double up on your mask. Who in the hell is going to be walking around here doubling up on their mask? Next thing you know, these fools going to start telling you, well, you can take rat turds and squish it down and line it around the nostrils of your, of your nasal cavity. People, please. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. But what I do know for sure is your body has the opportunity to heal and repair itself. You have to give your body the opportunity to do that. You must. And if anyone that comes across this video and they watch it, feel free, to leave your comments below. If you need some advice, I'm willing to give it to you. I don't want nothing in return. Everyone wants to try and profit off of certain information. I don't want to profit off of none of the information that I come in contact, that comes across my lap. Because when it comes across my lap, I feel that it's the right thing to give it to the rest of the people in the world. We all got to live here together. We all have to build here together. Some people we don't like, some people we like, but at the end of the day, no one should be granted or given a pat on the back for eradicating a percentage of the population for some sort of financial gain and power. To me, that's corrupt. That is corrupt. Those individuals, I feel like they need to be put on a public forum and just make them stand in front of a firing squad and just empty the whole clip on them. Those people are toxic. They are. So, in closing, if you want to start eating healthy, um, feel free to Feel free to leave your comments, your questions below. I will be more than happy to send information to you so we can get you started. Because what I start, since I have been vegan, well, I'm not even gonna lie, because I still eat some seafood. Like I still eat shrimp, I still eat, salmon, but besides everything else, I'm not even gonna lie. Shoot, a couple of months ago, before I became vegan, I was almost at 200 pounds, and I'm 5'10". Okay, so I'm 5'10", and I was close to 200 pounds. I was just like maybe 3 pounds off. But right now, since I have changed my diet, um, I started drinking this tea. It's like CBD infused deluxe blend tea, well, coffee. This gives me a lot of energy and a hellified level of focusness. I've been drinking that. I've been on even my detox tea, by Tava. I've been on those things. And when I tell you my level of focus is there, my energy level is there. But since I've changed my intake, it's like, yo, I've lost a lot of weight. I'm damn near back down to what I used to be in high school. And when I was in high school, I was like 145 pounds. And right now I'm like 158, 100, somewhere in between 158, 157. But I don't regret it. I don't. I just really wish, my mom, because she's a diabetic. I just wish my mother would take life much more serious. Take health much more serious, I should say. And I'm pretty damn sure a lot of you are probably looking at your elders, your mother, your father, your grandparents, your aunts and your uncles, those that you love and you have a level of respect for. You're looking at them and you appreciate them. You love them. You respect them. You know, we know how we're coming into this world. We know that death is imminent, but no one should speed up that process. Nobody. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I just wanted to share that with you all. Pay attention to, please pay attention to the information I shared and think about it long and hard about who do you really trust. If you are a spiritual person and you pray to your God, your Allah, whoever, if you trust your God, there's no reason for you to go out there and get this vaccine. None. Because we have been given the blueprints of how we should eat, how we should take care of ourselves. We've gotten away from that. And I encourage each and every one of you to get back to it. What do you have to lose? But I love you. If you haven't been told that today, let me be the first to say, I love you. I appreciate you. You are beautiful. You are handsome. Pause. And You are one exceptional individual. Never forget that, okay? So until next time, you all enjoy your evening. And again, smash up those likes. I greatly appreciate it. And leave your comments below. I would love to hear from each and every one of you. Okay? All right. Stay in love, y'all. Peace.